Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. He was silent for days. Now, a congressman elect is breaking his silence about some serious allegations. George Santos now admits he lied about his education and work experiences, and a lot more than that. We're going to talk about that this morning. Also, in dire cold conditions over the weekend, buses of immigrants, some wearing just T-shirts, were dropped off in front of Vice President Kamala Harris's home in another savagely inhumane act by a Republican governor, particularly the one out of Texas. They continue to show just how racist this country can be. And also, soccer icon Pele remains in grave condition at a hospital in Brazil. We'll discuss the greatness of Pele this morning. And after 50 years after Wayne Williams, a black man, was convicted of murder in the infamous Atlanta child murders case, relatives and friends of many of the victims still don't believe Williams was the perpetrator. We'll tell you what they did in Atlanta over the past week. But first, let's bring on none other than NNPA journalist extraordinaire, Barrington Salmon, as we discuss the headlines this morning. Good morning, Barrington Salmon. You're on mute, Barrington.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing good. Always good to have Barrington with us.
Thanks for
Barrington,
having me.
George Santos is apologizing, but is remaining steadfast, saying even though he lied, he's not stepping down, and is confident he will still be sworn in as congressman on January 3rd. He says he's not a fraud, Barrington. This is a case where you lied to the people who were voting for you, or you at least you convinced to vote for you. You lied to everybody about your education, about your work experience, um, and so many other things that yet he hasn't yet admitted to. In fact, there was one thing that said where he talked about Jewish people. He said he meant he was kind of Jewish,
Oh,
meaning
jeez. Oh,
what's
okay.
with this guy?
You know, we talk on and offline, Stace, and it just it. I said on my Facebook page, it's just another stellar example of Republican vetting. Um, he is just the next in the line of individuals in what used to be a political party
Mhm.
that he illustrates a moral rut. These liars, these cheats, these scoundrels. You know, it's like a murderer's row of liars and cheats. And I mean, if you, I've been reading the stories about him, and I just, they said that he admitted to lying about graduating from college. He never graduated from college. Um, he said that he worked at Citigroup and Goldman Sachs. Never did
Right,
that. He
right.
said he had a family portfolio of land, 13 properties. Um, he said he was a landlord. Everything that and the New York Times did an investigation, and they just found him to have lied every step of the way. And the thing is oh yeah, then of course he said that he had his grandparents, I guess he said, were victims of the Holocaust
Hmm.
during the Second World War, and now he's saying that he didn't claim to be Jewish; he's Jewish, as you said. It's if it wasn't so serious, it'd be laughable. But I mean, at the end of the day, the Republican margin in the House is so slim that they're gonna, the liars and thieves that make up so much of that party are gonna continue to embrace him with open arms.
Yeah, I don't. Is there any mechanism? Because I don't think there is. I was looking this up too, but is there any mechanism for them to, other than a criminal prosecution, for them to remove him or prevent him from being sworn in next month?
I don't think so. From my understanding, they can do an ethics investigation, but who knows how long that would take.
Hmm. And because the House is will be Republican led, how far will an investigation into a Republican go?
Oh, well, the ethics investigation is bipartisan, so it could it. But I mean, the whole system is just so slow and doddering it could be he could be out of office before they initiate and finish an investigation. And I'm not even I don't in most cases when they have these investigations, the sanctions aren't that onerous, severe
Mhm.
and stuff. So you may get a slap on the wrist or that type of stuff. So I don't know that that would necessarily work.
Yeah. He says, "I want to make sure," this is a quote from him, "I want to make sure that if I disappointed anyone by, um, by resume embellishment, I am
Yeah,
sorry. One thing is I will be sworn in." He was defiant. "I will take office to be able to be an effective member of the legislature."
yeah,
He extremely defiant, and of course, as Power 96 writes in, he says, "Say it ain't so. A crooked politician, and he has the complexion for the protection."
oh yeah, for sure. But he yeah, he one of them. I'm looking at his picture. He don't his complexion for protection isn't as thorough as it could be, but you know as he's probably white appearing or
But he has that R behind his name, right?
he has the R behind his name, and you know they I mean I was reading some of the statements from his lawyer, and I was like nauseated. I was like, you know, he's trying to say that folks are just going after him because he's a Republican and da, 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 da. I'm like, shut up and go away. It's just so foul, you know. So
Yeah. It's so interesting too because on both sides, Democrats shoot themselves in the foot, Republicans shoot themselves in the foot. Republicans finally won a district in Queens, in Northeast Queens, where, and this encompasses Northeast Queens, Santos's district, and Long Island, parts of Long Island,
mhm.
and bang, how they shoot themselves in the foot with this guy. You know,
Yeah,
it should have been a huge, and it is a monumental victory for them, but look how this was won. This guy lied throughout his campaign,
yeah.
lied to his constituents, lied to the voters, lied to both sides. He lied, Democrats and Republicans alike. He lied.
But here's the thing: I am not a supporter of either. Like I don't consider myself Democratic
Hmm.
or Republican. But the Republicans have a reputation, bruh. I
Hmm.
mean, starting with Orange Jesus, the lying, the mob like behavior, the intimidation, the criminal activity. So I mean, this is par for the course. And you know, for me, I I've been having a long running I wouldn't call it a feud, but I've been banging it out with this young man who I went to high school with, and he is. I mean, every day he puts some foolishness on Facebook about his love for Orange Jesus and you
Mm.
know the Democrats being corrupt and da 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 da. And I was like, bruh, you of all people, you shouldn't be. You know, how is it that you're a Christian and a flaming Christian at that. And every post that you put on, you are embracing and loving these criminals, and he can't really say anything. So you know you always know you've won an argument when they start going personal. So all he can do is give me grief
Yeah,
and not deal with the facts. But I mean,
terrible.
I just I see it and you know wait until after January. Wait until they the next Congress starts. That's when the shenanigans are going to begin.
A couple quick things. Lynn Carter Stewart writes that he should not be sworn in, talking about Santos,
Yeah,
and Power 96 makes a great point. He says, check his census form. He says, I will bet one of my retirement checks he checked white, Latino / Hispanic as his race.
yeah.
Mm,
I'm
uh, uh, um,
pretty sure about that. He's a particular type of immigrant. He's one that you know because they got a whole bunch of them in the bag. You know they run around white appearing and just feel that they can be like the
yeah.
white boys that they shoot that they want to emulate.
Well, which is interesting because this next item, several busloads of migrants were dropped off in front of Vice President Kamala Harris's residence in D.C. on Christmas Eve. It was 18 degrees when late Saturday when they dropped them off. It was
Yeah,
the real feel was in the minus category,
yeah,
and an initial 2 busloads were taken to local shelters, according to an administration official. More buses arrived outside the vice president's residence later, when it was even colder.
yeah.
And this was they were coming from Texas. It turns out Republican Governor Greg Abbott once again pulling the stunt. This time during the heart of the holiday weekend, and you know it's costed
More than 100
Texas so
people,
far
including
more than
children, were left
$12
outside,
million
$12 million.
to do this,
unprepared, wearing
Yeah,
T-shirts
yeah.
in the record.
and they feel it's worth it.
cold.
It's been so cold
Well,
that
yeah, because
people,
they
I step outside and they
they're
say, please,
catering to their
let
base.
me in, even if there's standing room only.
And-
I don't even have to find a place on the floor to sleep as long as you just allow me to come in.
The White House immediately blaming Texas Governor Greg Abbott, saying in a statement he abandoned children on the side of the road in below freezing temperatures on Christmas Eve. This was a cruel, dangerous, and shameful stunt. Abbott's office did not respond to a request for comment, but previously said Texas had bused more than 15,000 migrants since April to Washington, D.C., New York, Philadelphia, and Chicago. It's part of a growing political.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've been reading. I did a story on it some months ago, and they said that the city DC is already overwhelmed. The social service system is overwhelmed because I think they've had like maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people who've come to the city and just been dumped and left. Cruel, heartless, funky, and crazy, man.
It is as heartless as you can get, and it just as you noted just before we went into that, how the Republican Party has been capturing really the Latino vote and Latino supporters. It's hard to wrap your head around that when you see in plain sight how they feel about you. It goes back to the old Malcolm X saying, about the house Negro and the field Negro. I mean,
Yeah.
this is if you're going to support someone, and it's not that they should support Democrats. I in no
No.
way advocating supporting either one, but my gosh, it's like supporting the master here. It's horrible.
But you have to remember that in Florida in particular, Nicaraguans, Cubans, Venezuelans, they have been running from what they term to be communist countries, socialist countries, and all the Republicans have done is play to their fears. And there's an element of selfishness as well. It's like, I always liken it to Clarence Thomas. He benefited from affirmative action, and then once he became a member of the High Court, he kicked away the ladder so that nobody else could benefit from what he did. And that's what these people are doing. They are cruel and they're heartless as well, because they're in, and they basically said they don't want anybody else to come in. And it's interesting because sometimes some of the most virulent opponents of folks coming in are immigrants. But the thing, what's really interesting and something that they don't usually talk about is the fact that these folks are coming here. These migrants are coming to this country because the United States has propped up puppet governments. They've overthrown governments that would have benefited, like progressive and socialist leaders who would enact legislation and policies and programs that would benefit the people and not multinationals. So the U.S. is protecting its so-called national interests by making sure that the people in power hew to what America wants rather than what the people want. And they have been socially disrupting, politically and socially and economically disrupting countries in Latin and Central America, and people are running trying to find a better life. I mean, Greg Abbott claims to be a Catholic, devout Catholic. He's a pig. He's a pig. He's cruel. He's a punk. And you know, I look at the midterms. He got back in higher numbers than when he ran the last time.
So that tells me that Greg Abbott is definitely on your list for Fool of the Year. We'll revisit that, folks, soon. Maybe it's the folks who support him are the Fools of the Year. Who knows?
Yeah.
But that's going to be a Barrington Salmon call right there. Who is the Fool of the Year? We're gonna bring that to y'all too this week with Barrington Salmon. Barrington, the son and daughter of Brazilian soccer legend Pele, have taken to Instagram to post moving tributes and pictures of their father as they spend the holiday at his side at the Albert Einstein Jewish Hospital in Sao Paulo, in Brazil. The 82-year-old was admitted to the hospital on November 29th for a respiratory infection and reevaluation of the chemo treatment he received over cancer because of his colon cancer, which was diagnosed in September of 2021. It appears that the legend is certainly in his last days. It's really, really sad to see. But what a life, what a career. You know, when you think about sports and you think about the icons of sports, the people say they'll argue that Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player or Kobe Bryant. Baseball, of course, talk about Babe Ruth, of course, in my estimation, Willie Mays is the greatest player to ever put on a uniform. But it is unquestioned who is the greatest person to play the sport of, well, we call it soccer, but they call it football.
Football.
Yeah.
Pele is a GOAT. Pele, youngest person to play in a World Cup, 17 years old.
And
youngest to win. Winner of three World Cups, 1,300, more than 1,300 goals, 1,200 appearances. I mean, amazing. I saw a documentary some years ago about him, and he was juggling a grapefruit. Had the grapefruit doing the stuff off his head, off his chest, off his knee. Yo, the greatest. And we were talking before, you know, because Lionel Messi and Argentina finally won because you know we've had what I would call an orgy of football for the past month. Every morning I was up early watching games because that's, you know, football has always been my thing.
Yeah,
and,
I saw you posting the scores every day.
Oh yeah. You know, Mimi was a football wife, a football widow, because I was like, you know, can't do anything else, gotta watch these games and stuff. But you know, there's been this debate. I don't know how broad it really is, of people trying to say that Messi is the GOAT, and I was like, the numbers, the legacy speaks for itself.
Yeah,
it's Pele. It's Pele. There you go.
Yeah, I remember, of course, when he came over to the United States to play for the New York Cosmos in the North Atlantic Soccer League, bringing the game to America at Giant Stadium. As you see that picture there, Giant Stadium. The Cosmos were a great team in that league. However, without Pele, you know, that 80,000 plus seat stadium would draw 5,000 or 6,000 people. When Pele came, there you see full house. And they won. They won the championship twice. And then he retired with winning the championship. Retired from competition.
But remember, Stacey, he was so valuable to Brazil. The Brazilian government made him a national treasure. So that no other team would be able to buy his services. And I mean, played with Santos, played with other teams in Brazil, and God, the amount of trophies, the amount of championships, it's unequaled. I was telling you that he came to Jamaica. Brazil came to Jamaica in 75, I think. And there's like one major road going to the National Stadium, and it was people walking, people driving, people in trucks, people in buses going. I think someone said that the capacity for the National Stadium was like 45,000, and it was 60 plus, maybe 70,000 people who were there. Everybody wanted to see Pele, including me.
He was a rock star. He was the Beatles, he was Elvis, he was Michael Jackson, all in one. This guy really, you talk about transcending a sport. He as Power 96 says, outside of Muhammad Ali, Pele hands down is the greatest to ever do it. And even with Ali, and I believe Ali was the greatest of all time too. But even with Ali, you debate. Was Ali the greatest? Was what's his name? Rocky Marciano the greatest? There's some debate, at least, right? There's no debate in my mind. Ali was the greatest. But there's some debate. With Pele, there's absolutely no debate. And this crazy talk, we get wrapped up in the moment with Messi, right? That's crazy talk. That's being in the moment. Let him do it over a lifetime like Pele.
But the beautiful thing for me, Pele was black. No, I'm serious.
Well,
because when you live in a whitewashed world where they try to tell you that everything of quality, everything of excellence is white, when you see someone like Pele as a black man, an undeniable black man, a beautiful chocolate-colored black man.
Chocolate-colored black man.
It
came out on the field too. I was watching just yesterday some clips, and they were showing how other players, racist players, would attack him.
Hacked him. He
kicked him in the face.
In the 1962 World Cup, I think 62. I think he ended up hurt because every time he touched the ball, they were like, make sure he doesn't move. So they kicked him. They did they brutalized him. And he left injured.
But he was undeterred. He was, in that sense, a lot like Jackie Robinson too, right? Which again, it only adds to his legacy, his greatness,
his mystique.
There you go. The great Pele. We certainly, the Black press certainly appreciates Pele. We certainly look, really feel for his family right now. Our thoughts, our hearts go out to the family of Pele as they struggle through these apparent last days of the greatest.
A life well lived.
The greatest.
Edson Arantes do Nascimento.
I like that.
That's his name.
Yes, I know. I could never pronounce it.
Oh, okay.
Look, I'm having a hard time saying Pele.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Well, Barrington, on a more serious note, relatives, neighbors, and advocates of victims of the Atlanta child murders took their places in front of a bank of microphones and cameras outside Atlanta City Hall. They were there to hold a press conference to try to drum up some attention for the victims while attempting to get any updates in regard to the DNA of the victims that was outsourced more than a year ago under former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. The DNA was sent to a laboratory that specializes in DNA evidence and is located in Salt Lake City, Utah. There have not been any updates, according to the families. The families unequivocally believe that there were other people involved, and they don't believe that Wayne Williams, who's been serving time since 1981 for these murders, they don't believe that he is the perpetrator. And I got to tell you, quite frankly, when this was happening, it began around, I believe, 79, 80. I think I was like 11 years old, 12 years old, whatever. And I followed that then. I always followed the news ever since I was like 5 years old. And I said, this guy didn't do it. I never thought that. Now, remember too, he was only convicted, if my memory serves me right, there were 28 murders.
Like
he was only convicted of a couple of them. And but I never thought he killed anybody. I thought this guy he was a bit off his rocker. He was a photographer who happened upon the scene and wanted this attention. He wanted the attention because he thought that he would be able to parlay that attention into getting bigger gigs,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he went too far, and they
I,
needed a scapegoat.
I never felt that he did it. And I mean, it's not like it would have been now where I'd have been scouring information, trying to do research and stuff. But just based on what I saw, what I heard, I never thought he did it. And you know, every time that I thought about the way that this country, this society has always gone after Black people, it always felt to me that it might have been some Klan people, it might have been some white nationalists, or something of that nature.
It had to be somebody, Barrington, that these young people. I think there was 2 adults killed in all of this, but they were all young.
With trust.
It had to, and it had to be. It made you believe. It made me believe that it was somebody in law enforcement capacity.
Yeah.
That was able to summon these kids to them, and they were able to take them off somewhere. There was strong speculation, still is, that at that time too, although it was the late 70s, early 80s, that the Klan was very much involved in this as well.
But when you think about the fact that so many people in law enforcement were members of the Klan, it's very easy to believe that someone in uniform came, got them, and took them.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
I hope something comes out of it, but at this point, my heart bleeds for the parents, because for all this time they've not really known who did this.
Yep.
And it fits a pattern that whenever it's us who are victimized, there's very little done. The resources, the time, the effort is not done, and you end up with a situation like that white woman, Carolyn Bryant, with Emmett Till. You know, they knew that she was implicated. They knew what she did, and they refused to follow through, to let justice take its course. Yeah. I hope against hope that in this case justice will take its course, but I'm not hopeful after 40 plus years.
Date, given the nature and circumstances of the offenses. Now, the board will not consider another parole request from Williams until November of 2027. Wow. A couple weeks ago, I met exclusively with the team behind the Wayne Williams Freedom Project, and I spoke with the man who was in the car with Wayne Williams on the night the FBI took him into questioning.
Yeah, and one of the parents said the other day, said, no one, this is a quote, no one has come forward and told me that Wayne Williams killed my child. Not even law enforcement told her that they believe Wayne Williams killed her child.
Yeah.
And she says, deep down in my heart, I know he did not kill my child.
Our final interview with Wayne Williams.
And, you know, this is Wayne Williams. This is what he looks like today.
Wayne had written about being recruited for espionage training as a teenager.
Yeah, he
at a secret government
things wrong.
Learned unarmed combat techniques.
I don't believe he was involved in these murders at all. And the sad thing, Barrington, as we showed that picture of all the victims, I mean, that's all. That picture has always saddened me.
I'm 46 years and I still haven't.
A representative of so many now adults who grew.
It is a piece of our city's history that 40.
Yeah, and so 40 plus years ago, 50 years almost. It'll be 50 years soon. Yeah. But we heard it there in that piece. 2000. He's not even eligible to come up for
till 2027. And you think about lives taken. That's a stolen life.
Mm-hmm.
As with so many of the lives of those who are languishing in prisons and jails in this country.
Yeah, unbelievable. And we keep seeing stories too, Barrington, of people, you know, here and there, somebody being exonerated after 30 years, after 40 years.
Yeah.
it should never come to that. It should never come to that.
But it should never come to that if you think that what passes for the criminal justice system is fair and just and honest.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think of it in terms of it being an instrument of this country to control, to incarcerate, to put away Black and brown people, then it fits right in with the status quo. So.
Killing Curtis
after it began. Old case.
And Hazel Horn, who is a former neighbor and friend of Wayne Williams, also says she wants answers. She says, "I pray and I hope he gets back to his hometown." He lived in Southwest Atlanta, and she still lives there. She bought the home 25 years ago, but has lived there for nearly 50 years. She says there have been so many people that haven't given up on Wayne. If he ever gets out of jail, he will have a place to go and to stay. It's really a sad case. And once again, when they talk about Black lives, there's the poster right there with those kids. 28 of them. Unreal.
Man.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
It is.
Barrington is clearly frustrated.
No, because I just keep on thinking about the long line of Black people in this country who are paid the price just because they're Black, murdered, lynched, incarcerated, the whole nine. When you think about the lives, like I said, the lives taken, the opportunities snatched, all of the things that ends up happening to those of us who are unfortunate enough, if innocent, to end up behind bars, it just boggles the imagination. Makes you sad, makes you angry. So, yeah.
It is again. It is sad, and we'll see what happens if anything comes out of this. The families are continuing to put pressure on the authorities there in Atlanta, and hopefully, I mean, they had some assistance from Keisha Lance Bottoms at that point a year ago. Of course, Keisha Lance Bottoms is now working in the White House. So when you think about that, you would hope, at least consider that maybe she has a little bit more authority now from the White House, or at least more resources, I should say, than she did before. So we'll see. We will see.
But you have to think of it this way as well, Stace. The way that the so-called criminal justice system works, it's how many wins do prosecutors have? So they're usually very reluctant to go back to reinvestigate cases that may result in them losing a case. And it's all about wins for them. They don't care about people's lives. They don't care about people's lives that they've ruined. We read every day, of people who have been tried. They lied. They hid evidence. They did all types of egregious, unconscionable things. Folks get convicted, and what was the name of the young man in Texas? The young man that's been in prison for like 30 plus years, and they know that he's innocent, but no one's making an effort because, hey, it's done. He's convicted. They don't care if new evidence is presented that would dispute the case. So it's just a rotten dirty system, man.
It goes along the lines of what I was thinking too, that even when evidence is presented that exonerates a person, prosecutors oftentimes still fight.
They dig in.
So it's all about, you're right, it's all about the wins. And not about the lives.
And then, every time that I read these stories, I get pissed, where somebody goes to prison for 20, 30 years, and then they're going to pay them $750,000 or $1 million, as if that can compensate for the life that they stole. It's just I don't know.
Well, Barrington, it's always a privilege to have you. Just one more note for Power 96. He gives you another option for Fool of the Year. Herschel
Oh yeah.
Walker.
Oh, what's Herschel doing now? Oh, you mean the whole thing with the election? Oh God, yes. You know, but you know what? You know what's interesting, Stacey? I was thinking the other day that these fools in the party that used to be Republican Party are going to find some way to resurrect that clown. They are.
I have a feeling. Maybe I'm wrong, and we'll find out. I have a feeling that the Fool of the Year will certainly have an R next to his name somehow.
Oh no! This is I'm going to be an equal opportunity offender, bruh.
Okay.
Because the Democrats are no angels either, and you know I have a good friend of mine and colleague, Jackie Lukeman, who was saying that, you know, if you look at the way that they roll and how they deal with bad people, they're not any different from Republicans. They are a softer version. They work harder to, and the thing is that what we have to learn is that anything that we get as Africans in this country, we get it because it aligns with something that white people want, that white people accept, and that Democrats are foolish, and we talk about it all the time. You have a built-in constituency of Black, Brown, Native American, Asian, Pacific Islander folks that they could cultivate and they could win young people. If they cultivated young people, they could win for a generation. But they spend all their time trying to recapture white people that don't vote or support the Democratic Party anymore. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So there are enough fools in there as well.
Well, we stay tuned, everybody, because this week we're gonna finally have the first annual Barrington Salmon Fool of the Year. And by the way, Power 96 mentions that you were talking about Rodney Reed in Texas. He has been on death row for 22 years.
Yeah.
A cop killed the white woman because she was messing around with Rodney.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Thank you, Power 96. Thank you so much, Barrington Salmon.
Thanks
and again, stay
me.
tuned, folks, for Barrington
God.
Salmon's Fool of the Week. We'll have that this week. Thanks for joining. Let it be known. We'll see you tomorrow.